Welcome to the W Suite Power Mentorship class. I'm your host, Jonathan Boynton Lee. 2020 has been a year of unprecedented transformation, both positive and negative. And while we have changed the way we view both our personal and professional lives, the need for social cohesion and creating meaningful mentee-mentor relationships is still as vital as ever. No matter how independent and ambitious you are, no one can fully succeed alone, because no one learns in isolation. We learn through dialogues, through sharing our experiences, our insights, and our expertise. And we grow others by doing so. Today, we have three powerful mentors who are all experts in their fields with a wealth of experience behind them. And this mentorship masterclass is here to provide them with an open platform to share their wisdom, while giving our panel of mentees the opportunity to learn, ask questions, and gain both insight and inspiration. This is how knowledge economy works. Now, before I introduce our panel of mentees, it must be said that this would not have been possible without the input of the National Mentor Movement and the backing of Brand South Africa. Brand South Africa is dedicated to creating a country that thrives on a socially cohesive knowledge economy, and this is just one of the ways they are making that happen. And the National Mentorship Movement has made it their mission to connect 1 million South Africans with 100,000 mentors, co-creating a culture rooted in individual empowerment through shared experience. So, if you look behind me, you'll see a whole panel of mentees who are joining us today. They're all getting out of their pajamas before they're on camera, so we're going to just wave to whoever's there behind us at the moment. Without further ado, let's introduce our panel. On our panel today is CEO of Zane Investments, Ntateko Khosa, who has provided leadership and management supervision to both governmental and private enterprises, focusing on property, energy, education, health, and ICT. She is also the National Mentorship Movement Independent Director, spearheading the initiative's aims to support over 1 million South Africans through mentorship. Welcome.
Thank you.
We also have Stephen Reed, who is passionate about expanding the capacity and ability of small and micro businesses. He has mentored for the Young Leaders Initiative, the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, Black Umbrellas, and others. Finally, Prasentha Naidu, who has over 10 years' experience in the financial and tech industry. Prasentha is a passionate leader, continuously building the case for women in STEM. She heads up the Women's Chapter Network and dedicates much of her time to personal and skills development through her involvement in the business analyst community of practice and various other mentorship initiatives. We're going to bring on Katie Mohammed to facilitate the Q&A and get everyone involved and get the whole program going. All right,
Fantastic.
Katie, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. So, you guys have such great profiles from an age perspective. And earlier on, we spoke about, us being elder millennials, and we have a lot to offer. Ntateko, as a woman of color, that we've never had the value of mentors as we grew up. When you think about it, if you had a mentor, or did you have a mentor when you grew up? If you had one, what could be the different changes that you would have made in your life?
I think with all African families, in terms of mentorship, the people that you always look to are your aunts. So the women in the family are usually the ones that mentor you through, your puberty, through school, through challenges that you have with your own mother. Because I found that talking to my mother directly was always a challenge. It would get very emotional. Whereas if you go to an aunt or an elder in the family, that person was always there for you. And for me, the greatest mentor that I've had in my life, in terms of my personal life, would be my grandmother. So it's always been a family where the matriarch was always showing us the way to say, look, this is how things are done. And more than anything, what I learned from my grandmother is how you always have family first, and that you also have family that you're born into and family that you choose. So she always used to say, my dear, her English wasn't very good, but she thought it was. She'd say, you always have what I call your born family, which is the family you're born into, and your love family, which is the family that you choose to love and to bring into your life. So I think without people like that in my life, I don't think I'd be where I am today. So those are the people that call you out, when you step out of line. They're people that congratulate you when you do well. And the people that hold you when you're in a difficult situation, when you're in a happy situation. So I think, for me, I value that. I value family more than anything. So I think people must not underestimate the value of having family members as part of your mentorship circle.
So what you're saying is the youth should listen to their family, their parents and their elders.
Correct.
You know, the one thing, Stephen, you come from like two generations of coaching, and coaching is some kind of mentorship over the years. I would think that that's what it is. How have you seen coaching and mentoring, the evolution of coaching and mentoring worldwide? How has it come to fruition? Because I know that in different countries we're kind of catching up now. How have you seen this?
Sure. So if you look back a couple of decades, coaching was very much a fringe. I'm going to call it a technology, a fringe technology, and now everybody knows, or most people know, that they should have coaches, and a variety of coaches for different things, whether it's business, leadership, life, etc. So there's been a definite shift towards coaching and professionalizing and regulating the industry as well. And with COVID, even more so. So people are understanding that your personal wellness, your mental wellness is really important. And to get ahead, have a coach. You know, get somebody to support you in your journey, because it's pretty tough out there.
And Pri, from a corporate perspective, you know, as entrepreneurs, we know that we need mentoring, but sometimes in a corporate perspective, how do you choose who needs to mentor you, or the other way around?
I think from a corporate perspective, it's really important to firstly understand where you want to go in your career, because you can become a specialist, you can grow longitudinally, and you can go up the ladder. And you've got to choose the person that's best aligned to your career and your objectives. And someone who's very objective and willing to give you advice and be very blatant and frank with you, but also understand that when you're not in a room, and we just had this conversation, when you're not in a room, it's also important to understand that there are sponsors. So sponsors are people that are going to have your back when you're not in a room, when there are CEOs sitting around the table and they're looking for their next colleague to join them on the same level. You need to have built a relationship and a reputation with all of those people, so that when you're not in a room, someone's going to have your back and someone's going to speak up for you.
And how important in Kateho is strategy? Because I think as mentees, we know that, you know, we kind of just want to wing it. We want to wing life. But as a mentee, you know, as a mentor, how important it is to talk about strategy, how to implement strategy. And we talk about vision boards and all. How do you spend your, you know, coming from the National Mentorship Movement, how do you spend your efforts into making sure that these mentees have a strategy?
I think for me, people need to understand the difference between being mentored and being coached. So being coached is more of a corrective effort, whereas being mentored is more of a journey to say, you know, you always get those interview questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? It's that exact question that you need to answer in terms of strategy. And then once you know what that thing is, then you look for people that are there where you want to be, to say, listen, I've seen your footsteps, I've seen where you've been, help me climb the ladder, as opposed to help me climb your ladder, as opposed to let me fetch my own ladder and start my own journey. So in terms of strategizing, you need to understand what is it that I want to be or be better than. So a mentor could be a person who's halfway to where you need to get to, or it could be someone who's already there. And then you need to make sure that that person has a vested interest in getting you there and in sharing their experience and holding your hand. But then again, you also need to pull your own weight. So you must always understand that the mentorship journey is led by the mentee. The mentee needs to drive it. The mentee needs to set up those appointments. The mentee needs to insist that, look, we need to meet, even if it's a telephonic. You know, if you can't meet with me, can we talk on the phone? Can I come over to your house? I mean, you need to be that insistent. You can't sit back and say, okay, no, it's fine. Maybe next week, you need to drive the journey. So once you can see the ladder, you need to step up that ladder. And it needs to be a deliberate effort to say, this is where I want to be. I can see it up there. I want to get there in 5 years, in 10 years. Maybe I can even do it sooner. How do I make it happen sooner for me? Because the mentorship relationship can be a long-term one, or it can be a short-term one, or you can have various mentors in the journey, in certain phases of your journey. So you need to be very, very clear. Have that vision board. The vision board is very important. Something that you look at every morning. Have a mantra, have a prayer. Just have a direction to know exactly what am I doing today? What will I achieve today? At the end of the day, what have I achieved today? What have I achieved for next week? What are my plans for next month, next year? So you need to be very, very deliberate. That's part of your strategy to say by year 5 or year 2, I need to be here. If I'm studying, you need to be applying. When do you need to apply by? What are the requirements? How do I get there? So you need to be very, very structured and very, very organized and know what your journey and your path is.
Stephen, you coach mentors. What is the one thing that you try and coach mentors, like that one specific thing that you know that every mentor needs to take? Because sometimes as mentors, you kind of eventually think that you want to be a savior, but how do you draw that line between having, being a mentor and all of a sudden trying to save someone?
It's a great question. So exactly around being a savior and what you've just shared around that the mentee needs to grow. So often mentees leave the relationship and just stuff. I mean, we all have lives going on, and it's not the mentor's fault. And a mentor can only do so much, and it's not their job to save. Their job is to guide and to challenge a mentee, and their job is to hold the mentee accountable. Yeah. So part of coaching a mentor is helping them understand the boundaries, what they can and can't do, what they should and shouldn't do. And then also for a lot of mentors is just to believe in themselves, that they don't realize the gift they have available to share with mentees. Because just being a little bit further along the journey is massive when you're looking from this side. Mm-hmm. When you're looking backward, you go, oh, it's small. But when you're looking uphill, it's huge.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Pri, from a corporate perspective, and I think I'm going to, you sit in and you have access to funding opportunities perhaps, and mentees want to know, how do they get to these funding opportunities? What is it? How do you guide them?
So I think when you're looking for funding, it's really important to have a business case, to make sure people understand what is the value you are trying to drive, and to be very, very confident in your message. So if you're going to walk into a room unconfident and sort of begging for money and without really having a great justification for why you need the money and what you're going to do with it and how it's going to benefit that particular corporate, don't even bother walking into that room. Also, it's important to find people that are aligned to what you're trying to achieve. So if you have a business venture that you know is going to benefit, for instance, Nedbank, right? You know that they're very big on greening, and your particular business venture is around greening and recycling, and you know that it's going to look great on their corporate brand. You need to drive it from that perspective. So what is the benefit for you in sponsoring me?
Mm-hmm. And Katya, what do you think about driving that conversation from a funding perspective? Because a lot of mentees also feel entitled. So all of a sudden you are guiding someone and you are a mentor, and then they feel entitled that you have to find them these opportunities. How do you guide them on where to get money and how to get this funding?
I think the alignment, as Pri was saying, you can't, you need to align with the entity that you're asking the funding from. If they're funding women, clearly as a man, you can't, put your foot first and say, let me go there first. That wouldn't be your first point of call. So you need to understand, who are you dealing with? And then you need to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you're asking for money from to say, would I give me the money? If I came with this story and I said, this is who I am, this is what I bring to the fore. If I was sitting there, would I give myself the money? So I think the alignment, knowing the message, and then also knowing, if you give me the money, how are you going to pay it back? How do you pay back the money? Is this a business that's actually viable? What makes it viable? And what is your role in it? So you can't also go in there and represent a business that you're not intending to be part of, because people fund people and then the business. So the person is the one that's driving what the business is all about. So you really need to know your story. You need to be able to answer any question. You need to understand your financial modeling. You need to understand how you're going to market this business. How do you go to market? How am I going to get the return on investment? Why me and not the next person? What makes me different? Who are my competitors? So if the funder was sitting there, maybe two of your competitors were there before, what is it that the funder would look at that would make me different? What is my unique selling proposition? What is my value proposition? Why am I here? Why am I doing this? So you need to be able to answer those questions at the drop of a hat without thinking twice. And you need to even know your business plan very well. You know, if you need to answer a question, please can you turn to page 55. I've outlined the following. So you really need to know your message, know your audience, know your competitors, know who you're up against, and know what kind of funding is that institution bring about. Are you looking for grant funding? Are you looking for mezzanine funding? Are you looking for long-term funding? What are you looking for, and why you?
Because there's also the difference between sponsorship and funding as well, because that you need to clarify that, because a lot of people also think, oh, please can you fund me, and please can you sponsor me, and you're like, actually funding is I need to have an investment in this thing as well. So if you want to go to the IDC, as an example, it's not, the IDC is not just going to give you money. They kind of own some part of your IP. How do you, Stephen, with regards to even IP, like when you talk to mentors and have this conversation about some mentees own IPs, and they actually don't know whether it's trademarked, how to get to trademark, how to somebody that's not going to steal their idea. How do you make sure that mentors direct them into understanding what trademark is, what registrations are, and possible intellectual property legalities?
I think one of the most important things as a mentor is to be honest, obviously. And if you don't know the answer, is just to tell the mentee that you don't have the answer and make a commitment to go and find the information. At the same time, challenge your mentee to go and find the information as well. And then you're going to come back and have a conversation around it. Mm-hmm. IP is incredibly important. It's really super important. And for a mentor to be able to also instill enough confidence in a mentee to be able to have a discussion around IP is also important, because sometimes mentees are nervous that they're going to share an idea, it's going to be stolen, but a relationship with a mentor should be able to get past that. And there's various sites. You go to CIPC in South Africa, and you can find a whole lot of information. And there's law firms who specialize in it. You can go look them up on Google as well.
Mm-hmm. Pri, you talk about the STEM subjects that you're very passionate about. And especially with women and women of color, we've not been able to get to the youth to actually get to study these. How do you, as a mentor, try to guide this conversation, just go and study these STEM subjects so that we could have future engineers and future innovators in this country?
I think, as women of color, and I think as women in general, we come from a history of patriarchy, and sort of we develop this imposter syndrome, where we almost feel like we don't belong, and we almost feel like maybe I'll just do the softer stuff. Maybe I'm just going to become a psychologist or a marketer, because you think that those are traditionally what women do. But to be quite frank and honest with you, some of the best scientists, some of the best information technology specialists are women. We have an eye for detail. We have the ability to bring people together, collaboration. It's all those softer skills that segregate and separate women from men. And I'm not saying men don't have that skill, by no means. I'm saying that as women, we have the feminine in us, the feminine power, and we must utilize that to our benefit. STEM is not as, okay, I'm not going to say it's not difficult, it's difficult. But you need to believe in yourself and know that if you put the hard work in, you put the energy and you put the effort into it, you're definitely going to succeed at it. So don't think of STEM as if it is something specifically for men only. Traditionally, yes, women were suppressed and not allowed to go into that. But I mean, right now, the industry is booming with women and they are taking over.
Yeah, well, we lead like women.
We lead like a woman. I love that.
So, Ikateho, on that response, you focus on with construction and energy. Again, it's trying to get women and women of color within these sectors. I'm sure there's some women that come to you and they feel defeated because, again, with Stephen being with all these women around here,
The rose among the thorns.
yeah, the rose among the thorns. We do get defeated because it's such a male-dominated environment. And we feel sometimes, do we have to hang out with you guys and drink in order for us to get a contract? Or, what is it that we have to do? How is it that you guide these women to make sure that construction and energy is just not a male-dominated and we can go in and get these contracts? Because you work a lot with government entities as well.
Yes, so for me, it's always about saying you can't say that there are no women leaders. How many single parent households do we have? Women lead in so many spaces, and the problem is that they lead in those spaces in their homes. They're able to control a budget. They're able to distribute chores. They're able to do all sorts of things in the home. But the minute they walk into a corporate space, they leave, all those talents behind, and they sort of begging to be led. So I always remind them and say, listen, as a woman, you're always leading. Whether you like it or not, you need to now take those qualities into any space that you go into. Construction, that's the basis for anything and everything. Energy, the same. So those are spaces that we need to make sure that as women, we're there as well to represent our interests. What is it that the women need in that community? Is it a hospital? Is it a creche? Why don't the women get involved in those kind of projects? Why do women have to be tenants? Women need to be landlords. So we need to just think differently and say, as a woman, you're leading in that space, in a church space, in a church group, in a women's stokvel. Women are leading. So all it is to take those talents out of that environment and shift them into all the different spaces in which we exist. And be brave enough to just say, look, I've done it there, I can do it here. And I always ask my mentees to say, if you feel that there's a glass ceiling, who put it there? Why is it there? Why do you think it's there? Why do you see it? So you sort of have to challenge the status quo and say, look, there is no glass ceiling. The only impediment and the only thing that stops you from reaching your goals is yourself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just challenging yourself. Mm. I mean, we're very fortunate in South Africa that you can be and do anything. We're living in an era that life is different. The opportunities are there. You just have to want them.
Mm. And how do you, if there's opportunities that you've identified and say you have a great mentor that you know could actually get value off it, how do you sit and guide them? Government is always is a challenge. It's always about you have to have your financial records have to be X amount, and then you have a young woman who knows that she wants to be in logistics. How do you sit and give her that braveness and that courage to actually be able to apply for a tender, even though she's black and she's woman, and you know that she could get it? But some of us are not brave enough to do this.
I think it's all about formalizing the business to start off with. Like, you find people are running businesses off just a bank account to say, you need to understand, how do I know you're doing what you say you're doing? We need to talk about audited financials. Let's start a bank account, start operating from there, drop a budget, try and stick to it. This is what it means. Let's do it over a period. Let's do 3 months. Let's do 6 months. So that when you go to the bank, you go to a government department, you have a repertoire. You have a history. People know who you are, not from what you say or what you say you can do, but you've got a file, a book of business to say, this is what I've been able to do. This is what I'm all about. You can audit this, you can look at this. So basically formalizing what people already know. So a lot of the people in whether it's in a government institution, whether it's you're talking to another mentor or a mentee, people already have the skills. It's just a matter of just putting them in a format that is presentable to either an investor, to a banker, to a potential a business owner, or whatever you're looking for. You need to have the credentials. How do you build your credentials? How do you build a book of trust? Because people want to say, how do I know you can do this? Show me. So you need to be able to do that. So just get the person confident enough to say, look, if you can, live a whole month and you're able to arrange and manage your life, that means you can manage a budget. Managing a corporate budget is the same thing. You have a finite amount of resources. How do you chop it up so that you know that at the end of the month, this is where you're at, this is where you're falling short. And then if you have a little bit extra, how do you put it away? Saving, investing, this is what it means. So these are just habits that people are doing all the time, but they don't understand that in the business space, how do I apply that? Then you help them to be able to build a book of trust, a book of business, a book of experience, and that's how you do it. Yes. Correct.
Stephen, when you talk about coaching, and you coach these mentors again, from a patriarchal system, it's always like, do women have to mentor other women? We sometimes have to draw the line when men mentor women as well, because let's be, realistic, is that all of a sudden there's going to be a male mentor, and you kind of need to draw this line. How do you guide this conversation with your mentors? Because sometimes we don't just only want women to mentor us. We also want to learn from our allies. How do you direct that conversation? Because let's be honest, these things really happen when you kind of cross the boundaries.
I think mentees should have more than one mentor, first of all.
Agreed.
And I think it's really important, and I'm saying this for women, to get mentored by men and to have that energy exchange and get more comfortable, especially young women perhaps getting into an industry because they're going to come across powerful men. Mm-hmm. And to be able to understand and have a conversation. At the same time, there's women's stuff that a woman, I'm guessing, would want to share with another woman, and there's various experiences that a man would not have had. And to get mentored in that is so that women mentees, I believe, should have both.
Yes.
And I think on the flip side, it would be quite nice for young men to have powerful women engaging with them in a business context. So I'm sure a lot of men have powerful mothers, grandmothers, aunties, and so on. But just in a getting commercial sense and business mentoring from a powerful woman.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk intergenerational mentorship. Because sometimes you always think the older men or women have to, mentor the younger. And it's important because we come with knowledge, we come with wisdom, we come with some kind of expertise. We also, you don't have to be 50 to be a mentor. You can also be a young mentor because the youth of today know a lot more than we do. How do you ensure from a corporate perspective that intergenerational mentorship is actually key? Because you want to be able to guide older people and younger people and younger people and older people. What is it that you do, Pri, to make sure that happens?
So the first message I think that's important for anyone is that mentoring is not for older people and being a mentee is not for younger people. If you're someone who is continuously working on yourself and growing and developing, you should be more than willing to take on a mentor or a mentee. And so for me, I have both. I have mentees, mentors that are older and younger than me, and they both give me different perspectives. An older person is most likely going to give you a very traditional perspective on growth and development and business, whilst a younger one might help you understand what it means to be of this generation. What's their thinking like? What are the things that drive this younger generation, social media, etc.? So if you want to, for instance, start a business in this day and age, you need to understand your target audience. And what better way to do that than to be discussing this with someone who is the target audience and who can give you that perspective firsthand. So I'm part of the Women's Chapter Network, and I run that from an IQ perspective. And Ross actually mentioned she's got someone who she used to mentor, and then the table flipped and that person became her mentee, and vice versa. Why not? Why not? Because we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, and if you identify someone that has a strong point that you're weak at, that's your mentor. And if they identify something in you that you have to offer to them, you become the mentor to them. So it's not about how old you are, it's not about your gender, it's not about your race. All those biases need to fall away. It is about what do you have that you can impart on me, and vice versa. And I can guarantee you there is no mentor that walks away from a session not feeling that they themselves have been empowered. I always walk away going, wow, I actually didn't think about it from that perspective, or I didn't know that. And so it's very much a mutually exclusive relationship.
Do you think it's important that mentors and mentees have to be in the same industry? Because I sometimes feel that is also something that you get up one day and like, oh, I'd love for you to be a mentor, and you're really not in my industry. So I can guide you and be your mentor. But I know that for me is very important. How do you feel that mentors and mentees should be within the same industry?
I think earlier we spoke about a journey. So it depends on where you are in your journey. So I would say if you're starting up a journey in an industry you don't know, it would be beneficial to have a mentor in the same industry. But once you've made your way through the journey and maybe you're now walking into a management or a board type of situation, then you can have a mentor from anywhere, as long as they have the skills that you are seeking to improve or you're seeking to learn from. So it's really depending on where you are in the journey as the mentee. If you're starting, it's better to look for people that are in the industry you want to get into. Then you learn the industry. Once you learn the industry, then you learn management, you learn leadership, you learn strategy, but that you can learn from anyone who's excelling. So it's always about looking out for the people that have the expertise that you're looking for. It could be the expertise in the personal development area that you're looking for, or it could be expertise in the industry that you're looking to get into. So it's really aligning those things of saying, what is it that I want right now? And as we're saying, you can have more than one. So you could have one who's an industry specialist and have one who's a personal development type of person, maybe have a coach as well, have a sponsor. So you could have a mix. And depending on how you're feeling or where you are in your journey, it could be a financial specialist, a corporate advisor type of person, depending on what it is. Are you seeking funding? If you're seeking funding, yes, then a corporate finance fundi in any area. Any industry would be able to do that for you. So it depends on your journey and the phase at which you're at.
Stephen, on that note, from a personal mastery perspective, because I think with coaching, that is also important with mentees, how they need to invest in themselves as well, and how important personal mastery is. What are the benefits for mentees? Because sometimes we think that we need to be a little bit older to actually learn personal mastery. Whereas if we do it when we're younger, we actually can make less mistakes, less errors.
Absolutely. I think most older people go, I wish I knew then what I know now.
I think we all do that.
Yeah, absolutely. and if I think back to myself as a teenager, so not even in my 20s, started working or if you're at university or whatever, but even at school, the amount of effort I put into going on a date, just that. Mm-hmm. So the amount of research about what to wear, what to say, how to be cool, all of that. And I mean, that's now at work for your business. Your personal mastery is how do you improve your relationship with yourself and others? Mm-hmm. Because to get by in this world, we need others. We work in teams, whether we like it or not. And we're always connecting with people, even in COVID, whether it's on Zoom or email, we're always connecting. And the better we are able to communicate with another human being, to get our point across, which includes being able to listen properly, that is going to benefit us and improve the outcomes we want. We want to be successful business people. We're part of a community and we need to be able to connect with them.
And that business coaching and life coaching is different. Because I think people just like, oh, I have a coach. But you're like, what kind of coach you have? Because I think that is very important.
I don't have enough fingers to rattle off all the different types of coaching. Literally, so it's leadership coaching, board coaching, team coaching. You know, maybe you have a coach in your health, a financial coach. There's tons.
For me as well, it's just like having a writing coach, because that's what I'm doing. Is having, you learn so much more when you have a writing coach. So I think for mentees also need to know that that's important to have the different types of coaches throughout their journey.
And if I can add, get your coaches, get your mentors, get all the advice, and then do something. Just go out and fail, but do something. So it's one thing getting all of this stuff, but you've got to go and practice it, and you've got to action for stuff to happen. That for me is also just so important. Be deliberate in going out there and trying what you've taken in.
And Pri, how do you stick to an agenda? Because I think when you have a mentorship, a mentor, and you kind of have this hour with them or 2 hours with them, how do you stick to the agenda without getting derailed? We just start talking about COVID, or how do you bring it back to the agenda points?
I'm going to be very honest. I don't always have an agenda, and I'll tell you why. I think that often the relationship is driven from a mentee perspective, and you're there to assist them. You're a sounding board, right? So when you get into a session, obviously you don't want to be talking about COVID and the price of onions in the market. You want to keep to how can I help you? That's the objective in a mentor session or mentor-mentee session, is always to be a sounding board, to help them, to advise them, to guide them, to direct them. And I think you mentioned this important point earlier. What is your vision? And if someone is veering too far off from their vision and their goal and their target and their objective, this conversation is just not going correctly and as it should. So I think, you often have to call yourself out and go, oh wait, no, that's not what we're trying to achieve here, and bring the conversation back. But it's also good to bond, I think, on a personal level with a mentor and a mentee, to get to know each other and what makes you really tick as an individual. So it's not always 100% work and no pleasure.
But I mean, Nkateko, from a national mentorship, do you think that it's a lot of investment? It's like vested relationships, but it's also exhausting, because as a mentor, you got shit happening as well. Like, how do you get to that point where you also draw the line? Because sometimes you book something in your diary and you don't really feel like mentoring someone that day, but you don't want to disappoint them. And how do you keep your levels up?
Look, I think you need to look at the whole year and say, this year, how many sessions do we need to do? And I think with our national mentorship movement, we do have a platform that helps you to do that. It allows you to draw an agreement between the mentor and the mentee. What are the do's and don'ts? What is it that you want to achieve? Then you have it written down. I think the minute you write stuff down, or you commit it to paper or an application, but you writing it down, you better align to that and you stick to it. When you look at the whole year and say we're going to meet quarterly on the last Thursday of every quarter, whatever the case may be, put it in the diary immediately. And then if you're committed to that relationship as a mentor, I can say to someone, look, I can't actually meet with you because I'm meeting with my mentee. And as a mentee, you're like, look, there's no way I can move anything out. So you need to be very jealous about that relationship and the time that you have together, and you need to guard it sacredly, and also have a written compact to say, what is it that we want to achieve? If we're going to be meeting for a year, at the end of the year, what have we achieved? And then at every point when you meet, you go back. I go as far as saying, listen, you need to minute our discussion. Please write me an email about what we discussed today. And then when we meet again, pull out that email as per discussion the last time. This is where we are. Please kindly, when you go back, go and update it. So always throw the ball back into the mentees. Responsibility to say, no, you committed to this, therefore write it back to me. And I always say, you must always talk first, right after. So whatever you committed to, the very next day, as soon as you can, while it's fresh, while you committed, then I would write back and say, yes, I agree. Let's make sure that at the next session we do the following. And then together, We have, even if it's just an email, but you need to commit the thing to writing so that you can always go back, because you can talk as much as you want. But if it's written down, it's committed to, there's a compact, there's an agreement, there's a plan, there's a project plan, and you measure against that plan to say, are we reaching our plan sooner than what we thought? That's good. What else can we squeeze into this plan? Because now we're overperforming. So you want to get to that position where you're like saying, no, we're actually achieving, we're moving, we're doing something.
You spoke about, writing and follow up. Stephen, communication is also the single most important thing. And trying to drive this with mentees. Somebody sent me a message the other day, and we reached out to some students and talked about funding. And you can actually see the level of communication where people are, I literally, when I phoned the one girl and I said, you're looking for a blesser, because the way you're communicating on your email is like, I want, but there's nothing from you. How do you ensure that you also guide mentees to have the proper communication skill and practice it? Because, sometimes first impressions last, and the people don't give up on you, because communication is the single most important thing.
Sure. I think part of what makes the national mentorship movement so powerful is you've got that structure and you've got a mentee-mentor relationship that's professional. And if a mentee comes and sits down and is speaking in a way that is wanting to find a blesser.
Well, that was me unfiltered. You need a blesser.
then the mentor is in a I'm going to call it a sacred space, that hour or so, where you can have a frank discussion with the person, say, this is what you're putting out there. And to go out and practice that different communication, once you become aware and you accept, this is how I'm being seen and so on, is you can go and observe other people and go, oh, I start getting it now, I do or I don't like that. And maybe you still want to be like that, and they're going to go off on their own journey, and that's great. But they may be able to see the difference and to see how people respond to them if they try and change their communication. So it's a process. It's not one mentor session and then magic. They would have to go out and change. And under stress, we generally convert back to what's comfortable for us.
And you've got to practice.
Everything's practice.
Communication is all about practice.
Everything's practice.
As well, yeah.
Everything's practice. And one of the things, just listening to my fellow panelists around a mentor session and what do you do? One of the tactics or processes that can be used right in the beginning is just having a check-in for the mentor and the mentee, because the mentors have also got stuff, as I was hearing, going on. And for the mentor to be authentic and going, this was a terrible day. Or, I'm really going, this is, the highs for the week, the lows for the week, and for the mentee, so that then there's a connection. I know where you're coming from. It's really rough in your industry, and I know where you're coming from. This woman just told you that you wanted to bless her, and, you move forward there authentically. It builds trust.
And Pri, how do you ensure that these mentors actually deliver? So, I'm sure that we talked about checklists. When the next time you meet is have you done this, have you done that? And when they don't, how do you respond?
So again, it's, and I think you asked the question earlier on, how do you not make their journey yours, and I think as a mentor, you've got to be so involved that you're passionately giving them the right advice and guiding them, but you've also got to be a little bit impartial to go, your failure is not mine. I'm going to give you the best advice I can, and I'm going to help you as best as I can. But if you choose not to take the actions that are required for your success, that is on you. And I'm always very honest and open around that accountability. And I say to them, every session, and listen, here's the thing about progress. I don't think any of us have had a straightforward journey to success. You don't, and I don't even consider myself successful now, because every time I reach my next goal and objective, there's another one, and there's another one, and you enjoy that success for a few minutes, and then you move on. What's the next best thing? So the same thing with mentors is, with mentees, is that they've got these goals and objectives, and yes, you need to hold them accountable to it and continuously remind them of what we're working toward. But at the same time, you need to be compassionate and give them that leeway to say, Rome wasn't built in a day. Mm-hmm. So yes, if you fall flat on your face, we cry a little bit, we dust ourselves off, and tomorrow's a new day, we try again. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that means you shift your goals. I used to think I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I really started to experiment and play with it. And then I kind of went, what's my actual objective here? Is it to be an entrepreneur, or is it financial freedom? And if your objective is financial freedom, there's so many ways you can achieve that. So maybe a lot of us have this goal of being entrepreneurs, but we don't actually understand why. So the goalpost keeps shifting, and it's fine, it can keep changing, but you just have to make sure you're continuously working towards something.
Because often, some people ask, like, I just want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is your own thing? Because that's like the buzzword is I want to do my own thing. And then I often say to some of the mentees, it's like, you want to do your own thing because you don't want to fill in a leave form, you don't want to report to someone, or do you want to do your own thing because you have this most innovative thing that nobody else has? Because I think that's also that. How do you make sure that you also bring them back to, I want to do my own thing, and like, no, you've actually got another 5 years that you need to do in corporate before you want to do your own thing?
I think Pri answered that very nicely by saying that you need to understand what is your end goal. If it's financial freedom or to travel the world, to be able to afford anything, if that's what you want, you can do it anyhow. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be working for yourself. And working for yourself is actually not the easiest thing, because there are days when you wake up and you're like, I actually not today, hey? But then you realize that there are people that are looking, they're looking up to you, and you're leading a whole team of people. And if you're not there, what is it saying about the organization or the entity that you're trying to run? So being an entrepreneur is not as glamorous and as cute as everybody thinks it is,
We know that.
And, filling in leave forms, as an entrepreneur, you need to understand that filling in leave forms is something you need to enforce. And it's not because you like it, it's because it's got a financial, implication to it. There's leave payout if people decide they leave, So you need to make sure that it's done, even though people think you're a pain for doing it. Mm-hmm. So people just need to understand what is your actual end goal? Mm-hmm. Is it to live out your passion? Is your passion business analysis? You don't have to run a firm of a whole lot of business analysts. You can be the best in the game. You can be one that's sought after, that one that people want to pay the most for it. Mm-hmm. And then that's the financial freedom. You achieve it without having to create a business. Mm-hmm. Creating a business is hard. It's very, very hard. You need to look at everything across the board. You need to deal with a lot of people issues, a lot of process issues, a lot of finance issues. It's month end. You need to pay salaries. You need to pay creditors. It's not as sexy as people think it is. Mm-hmm. Running your own thing is not child's play. Mm-hmm. Being able to do business development and being operational and being and. So people need to just realize, what is it? What is my passion? What is it? How can I plow my passion? How can I live out my passion? Can I live it out by just being an independent consultant over there? What does that mean? Mm-hmm. I need to be able to bill for myself. I need to be able to budget for myself. Whereas if you go and work for a consulting firm, all you need to do is be good at what you're doing. You don't have to worry about all the, the billing and the, presentation files and God knows what else you need to worry about. So you just need to understand, what is it that I want really, and where can I get it the best way possible.
I know Gary Vee says that we make the hustle look glamorous, and that's why everybody wants to become entrepreneurs. Stephen, you've worked coaching micro businesses, and micro businesses is like you have zero money to do anything. How do you guide these young individuals who don't have much, but have the potential and ability, and how do you give them that hope?
It's all about hope. Make sure that.
But hope is also not a strategy.
No, not at all. Hope is not a strategy. What hope does is energizes you, and hope is that I can improve, I can get better, my lot will get better, and it's to keep that hope alive, number one. And for me, it's actually just passing on really tangible, practical skills. So to understand what something actually costs, so how much money you're going to get left with, because the cash flow management skills and the hustling skills of these micro entrepreneurs who are successful is unbelievable. I don't have those skills, that they are able to thrive, and I put that in inverted commas, and why I say thrive, even as somebody who's a survivalist. I mentored a woman who was on a street corner in, I don't know if you know, White City in Soweto. She was there, and she sold sweets and airtime. Neither of them have margin, and it's ridiculous. There's no turnover, there's no margin, there's nothing, and she put 2 kids through university. I couldn't do that. Couldn't even get close to doing that. So, woman leader, there you go. You know, it's exceptional what they have inside, and if they can understand the consequences without having to experience them, I think that provides a lot of benefit.
Because we always talk about, you know, when you're in corporate, and I think COVID has taught us this, that what is your side hustle? How do you make sure mentees know that they should have a side hustle? Because if we have another pandemic, there's something else that we can just fit into.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is, not enough people think about side hustles. And again, it's not glamorous, it's not easy, and it's called a hustle for a reason. You literally have to hustle. And I've tried out various things. I think that even if all you do is take 1,000 Rand or 2,000 Rand and think of an idea and you turn that into 5,000 Rand, you've gathered a taste for what it is to be an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people think that to be an entrepreneur, you need to get that 50 million Rand investment and, you know, start small. Start small, start developing that skill set. And that skill set is then transferable. Yes, as you move up the ranks, the risk become larger and the bounty on your head is much greater. But I always encourage people to just experiment. And there's no harm in taking just a little bit of your savings and sort of just try. You don't have to go through the funding and the trying to convince someone, all of that, but you're trying to then develop those skills. So for me, it's A, that experimentation, but B, do it in such a way that you don't have a lot to lose, but way more to gain. So yeah, that's my message.
I think as South Africans as well, we have that hustle in our blood. We just want to. So have you noticed that some CEOs as well, you know, they work for someone, but they want to also do other things on the side. And I think even like working with corporate, before corporates never wanted you, because it's always like a conflict of interest, restraint of trade. But how do you you know, tell people that you can't do this on the side? Because they kind of report to you for 8 hours a day. And then the rest of the time is their own time. So it's also, you know, there's limitations.
Yeah, but you know, you were bringing up the point of the pandemic, and I was saying, I now have 2 hours extra a day, right? What are you doing with those 2 extra hours a day? Because before I'd use those hours to travel to work, to shower, to whatever. And now I have 2 hours extra a day. And if you're not utilizing that time in a constructive manner, what are you actually doing, you know? So for me, yes, there's your, and consultants never work 8 to 5, never. That's just not what we do. So, I think the beauty of the pandemic is that you have your objective and your goal for a day, and you do that whenever you need to do that, and then you have this extra time, and you get to play with that. And for me, as long as it's not conflicting with the organization and what the organization's trying to achieve, go for it. And if you can use your networks to empower you further and to make your business grow, go for it. You have nothing to lose. And I think as an employer and as a mentor, you should be encouraging people to really experiment with their time. Don't be binge watching series. That's really not benefiting you in any way. There's so many aspects of your life. You mentioned how many various types of coaching there are. There's your health, there's your mental wellness, there's your family, there's all of these things that you could be doing Don't spend that time watching series. It's really not benefiting you.
Leave that for the long weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Stephen, when we talk about the young boy, you know, we talked about how important it is, because we often put a lot of pressure, because women have been, you know, we're lagging globally, we're lagging leadership positions and. So there's a lot of investment and focus with us women investing in each other. And then we feel sometimes, you know, as mothers, we sometimes feel that the young boys are also getting left behind. You know, as a young lad, how do you also make sure that we don't just always just focus on the women, although it is important, that we don't forget bringing the guys along?
It's a great question, because for me, I think it's really tough. Most of the programs that are out there support young women, and even if they support the youth, there's always an element of "and women." So I think it's pretty tough in that context, being a young guy. And I don't have an answer. How do you support them? I work with men's organizations, and I think it's quite important that young men have an opportunity to engage with other men around that, and that supporting women is trying to bring women up to a level of opportunity that you have anyway. And it's a very difficult and sticky subject, I guess, for a young guy who hasn't got an opportunity he feels. So I guess in the family, in a mental role with a young man who is battling, is just to let him vent more than anything else, is to be able to express in a safe space all his frustrations that he's feeling, that you know, this world is against him, and you know, woman, and let him be able to vent.
So being a man is a privilege. You admit that.
I think that the greatest privilege on the planet is being male. Absolutely. That's one I can answer.
And that is why it's so important for us, you know, even as women. Yes, we drive the female agenda, we drive economic empowerment, that we forget that we need to also take the guys along with us and not punish them, because that's why sometimes I think the guys do feel that we punish them because they're just men.
Yeah, if I can weigh in, I think this is a discussion I have repeatedly with my networks and my chapters, and I think that it's important to understand that patriarchy has been something that has weighed women down for centuries, right? And what we're trying to do is not say, bugger you, this is my stage. We're saying, please, can I also get on that stage with you? We're trying to level the playing fields.
And have a seat at the table.
We want a seat at the table as well. And we're saying, you already have a seat at the table. I'm not trying to get you a seat at the table. I'm trying to get me a seat at the table. And it doesn't mean I don't want you at the table, because you're already there. I'm just trying to get next to you. And I think that men think that feminists are these angry, bra-burning people that are just continuously trying to bring them down. It's not about you, it's about us. It's not about disempowering men, it's about empowering women. And so we really need to try and change that thinking. And it all comes down to bias. If we stop seeing people as male, female, black, white, colored, Indian, young, old.
That's in a utopia.
In a utopia.
we currently still have to see that.
True. But I think
otherwise we do get left behind if we don't see that.
100%.
Yeah.
But I think it's baby steps. Yeah. And it's about seeing people for who they are and what they're capable of. So what are you bringing to this table? I don't care who you are, where you're from, if you grew up in Soweto. If you come to this table and you are adding value to this table, you deserve that seat at the table. And that's what it comes down to.
Which is exactly what I wanted to ask you, is that when you want to hire someone, and that's why the mentees are listening as well, it's when you want to what are those things that you look for?
I look for attitude more than anything. If that person looks like they can do the job, they want to do the job, even if they don't know how to do the job, the fact that they want to, they're enthusiastic, they're passionate, they've got the energy, they focused on wanting to contribute. For me, that's number one. because you can learn any skill. But if you need to come in there with the right demeanor, the right positioning, the right posture, you need to want to be there. I mustn't be forcing you, and you mustn't be there just for that paycheck. Yes, I'll give you a paycheck, it's guaranteed, but it's not about that. Can you help me build my business? If there's a problem in the business, are you a solutioner? Don't come to me with a problem. Just say, listen, such and such has happened. This is what I've done. What do you think? Or I'll need a little bit of money to implement the following. I don't want someone saying, look, this thing is broken. So what must I do? I must fix everything. What is it that you're doing to come to the party and assisting me to make my business better? How do you make this business better? How do you work yourself out of your position? Be so good at it that I'm like, gosh, no, you're too good. You need to be doing this. Get someone else to fill your position. So for me, it's about that upward movement and that passion and that wanting to do something better, that wanting to get something done, to get on with it, not saying, I actually don't know. Because the way I work, I always say to people, look, this is the outcome. Go for it. Then they mustn't be like, how do I do it? No, that's your issue. You deal with it. If you struggle, yes, come to me, but don't come to me without trying. So having that self-starter mentality, that can-do attitude, that how do I do this? Can you help me with this? Am I doing the right thing? Can I get training on this? Not for me to say, I think you need training in this. You must come to me and say, I think I need this skill. I think this business needs this skill, and I want to have it. Can I go on a training course? So those are the kind of people that I always look out for.
And Stephen, on following up on what Nkateko says about when you look at someone and they have the right attitude, but they might not be wanting to further themselves. How is it that you actually get them to realize that in order for them to get to their next level, they have to do that extra course, they have to get some more training? Because sometimes people just also think that they might have that attitude and also like, I know it all. But you need to get to that point where I need to learn more. And formal education, we realize, is equally important. Even as entrepreneurs, we do know that, some people say, you don't need a degree because you're a business person, but actually it is important.
Hugely important. And I think getting somebody to realize that they are not lacking, but at some stage they are going to be lacking if they don't develop themselves, because everybody else who's ambitious is going to. Everybody else is going to be trying to improve whatever it is that they need to improve. And for people to understand that there is a hunger out there because there's a job scarcity. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, doesn't matter your industry, basically. And if you're not continuously improving, you're going to be left behind. So even if you feel you are it today, that's today. Tomorrow, you're not. And some people will get left behind. And I think that's just part of it. I work with entrepreneurs. Most will fail. Some will get up again. And so on. And eventually you'll have a couple of successful people. And I'm guessing it's the same in corporate. Not everybody's going to be the CEO.
Yep.
So the right people, as long as you're giving them the information, it's up to them. We said earlier, the mentee's got to do stuff.
Yep.
People have to go, I get it. I get it. Today I'm fine, tomorrow I'm not.
Do you think that we've also, and this is to anyone here, do we also just normalize that we have to fail in order to be successful? Because personally, I just sometimes think it's a waste of time. Why do we always have to talk about, there's always going to be a failure and then, we succeed? Why? COVID has taught us that we don't have the luxury of time. Yes.
If I can answer that. I think failure is such a huge part of life. And entrepreneurship is incredibly sexy. 20 years ago, it wasn't that sexy. It goes, everything goes through its
It was
phases.
like a man on a, what is it, the salesman with the brown briefcase. Yeah.
I got rid of my brown briefcase. So now we talk about failure. And the thing is, from the day you're born, you're failing. It's normal. And in some cultures, failure is celebrated. And just a very short story, a friend of mine I hadn't seen since school, lives in New York, comes here, he says, what do you do? I say, I'm an entrepreneur. He says, how many businesses have you had? Never been asked that before in my life. So I'm going like this. He goes, great. How many successful? I go, 6, whatever. I had 19 or 6, something like that. He's like, oh, cool. That was it. It was just, that's the conversations he has with his friends in New York, as an example. So certain cultures celebrate failure. In South Africa, we don't. I think we're pushing, trying to get to celebrate it a bit more because it's normal. What we do wrong, I think, is we absolutely just castigate people who fail. We have a look at Steinhoff as a failure of governance, and that somebody who's lost 500 Rand, they're equivalent. They're not equivalent at all. And part of the process is failing. What we've got to learn to do is fail quicker. Fail in the beginning, so it's cheap. So have the courage to put out there what you think as an entrepreneur or in business or whatever, going, there's a problem, this is what I'd like to do, but I need some money. Instead of going, there's a problem. As an entrepreneur going, I want to try this, test it, I'm wrong. Yeah. Not go and ask for 50,000 Rand and then get started and then lose 50,000 Rand.
Yeah.
But I think what's also important is with failure is how you treat the failure.
Yes.
If you sit and you wallow in it, then you haven't learned anything from it. So I think even with COVID, they're saying use every crisis as an opportunity. Use every failure as an opportunity to improve. So I think we also can't also speak about failure without fear. So I think more than anything, most entrepreneurs, most business people, if you're in a new job, your biggest enemy is fear. So firstly, you need to conquer the fear and then do. And then when you fail, it depends on what happens when you fail. What does your boss say? What do you do for yourself if you're an entrepreneur? If you fail, what happens tomorrow? And what do you use that as an opportunity to do so? I mean, I worked in a call center before where I used to look forward to the complaints, the hardcore complaints, the ones that people are shouting and screaming about. And the reason why I used to get excited about them was that it's an opportunity to improve. It means that the system is not perfect. And if it's not perfect, what is it about that failure that can make us even better? So I think it's how you get up from that failure. You can wallow in it for as long as you need to, but there needs to be an end and a learning to say, okay, this is what has happened now. What do I do tomorrow? What do I do next time? Or what do I tell the next person when I can see that, that thing, I've seen it before. Can I share this with you? This is what may happen. Look out for this. So it depends on what you do with it afterwards.
Do you think that the system fails us, fails young people, fails young entrepreneurs, because we all say, adapt, but we also, we're taking this failure, but the system is really, for me, failing young entrepreneurs as well.
I think when you say system, I would start with the education system. And I think that is our biggest problem. We are trying to breed sheep that all think in this. The fact is that first, the biggest problem here is if you speak to any aspiring entrepreneur, they'll tell you, but Elon Musk didn't, or he dropped out of college, but Steve Jobs dropped out, and I want a snack. Because I'm like, you're not Elon Musk and you're not Steve Jobs. And there's an element of luck that comes with entrepreneurship. And we had this conversation as well. There's an element of hard work, there's an element of discipline. And the thing about the system is that it doesn't, at an early stage, understand what is your objective in life, or just based on the stuff that you as a child have been passionate about. And we can see you really, really striving in music or art, or, hey, I've seen you selling some lemonade on the side of the road there, you might be an entrepreneur. And then trying to really hone in on those skills and develop those skills. I think what we're currently doing is we're churning out sheep and people with this boxed thinking, and it's not allowing us to actually hone in on the potential of each individual and allow them to thrive the way they have to. And again, not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur. Some people are really just wanting to be plumbers and really damn brilliant plumbers. And the system needs to enable people to do that. So yes, the system is failing us. Yeah. I definitely agree with you.
And we talk about financial freedom, we talk about economic empowerment, all those words, But when you have somebody like a fine arts student, who's brilliant at their job, but it's not going to make money, how do you get them to be excited about their talent? And that for me is, you're always like, 10, 20 years ago, fine arts students could have made money and now with the way social media has gone, the way, graphic artists these days doesn't have to take a pen and a paper, everything is on. So yes, we do adapt, but how do you get people that are passionate about what their talent is to make money? Because at the end of the day, we can sit and say, it's all about your passion, and bottom line is we got to pay bills. We want the nice things. We want to study. What is it that we got to get right in order to say that this is great, but also is it going to make you money? It's like, how do we do this? Because I find it difficult when I see some young people that are great at what they do, and I'm like, but that's not going to make money. And then I sound like, it's all about money, but it is about money. But how do we do that? How do we?
I think it's also about diversifying your skill set. So in as much as you're a fine arts, you can draw like nobody else, you still need the business skills. You need to be able to innovate. Say you're a fine arts student, you have a gallery. You don't have to just have a gallery. You could have it as an eventing space. You could have it as doing these kind of sessions in a gallery, holding birthday parties. I mean, you need to think out of the box to say, in as much as you're coming to see the art, I can also host you to come and have your event here. So you need to be able to think out of the box, think beyond just the drawing. If you're an architect, think beyond just, creating the vision. How do you manage and implement the vision? Maybe do a project management course to say, how do I project manage my dream into being? So you sort of need to diversify and look beyond. How do I monetize? How do I get someone to come and buy my art? Can I walk into a restaurant and say, please, can I put my artwork here? And then you can tell people about it. Or, something like that. So you need to think out of the box and not just think, I need to draw.
They say that sweet spot is where your passion meets your business need in society, meets your job. And when you can get those three things to overarch, you have happiness in life. And I don't think anyone is 100% happy with their jobs all the time. I don't think entrepreneurs are happy all the time. But I think that the objective is how do I find that sweet spot and ensure that I'm happy the majority of the time. And when I look back on my journey, it's an overall positive, happy journey. Yeah.
And of course, we can always just take a deep breath and go, I'm okay having a hobby. I don't have to make money off playing the piano. I absolutely adore it. I'm going to go and do that so that I've got time to play the piano. It doesn't have to make you money. It's your passion. Do it and love it.
And I think the most important thing, out of everything is how can we have that financial freedom? Because if we have the financial freedom, we can do what we love. We literally can sit on a beach and make some mojitos because we had the financial freedom. And I think if people told us that back in the days, we could have been on the beach already now. And I think for me, I always say, do I tell them that money is important, or do I tell them to follow their passion? Because it's that juggling in between. But bottom line is money always wins. But is there anything else that you guys want to add in? Because I think we kind of covered quite a lot, and I think our mentees got a lot of content out of what we've discussed.
I think from my perspective, I just want to say, again, we've covered a lot of topics, but I think you need to be very, very, what's the word? Just conscious of what it is you want, and you need to be extremely purposeful in what you do. So no matter what you do, if you do it really well to the best of your ability and you master that, you will be recognized for it, and you will move on to that next phase, whatever that is, be it entrepreneurship, be it working in corporate. And there are many ways to skin a cat. So don't always just have this view that you need to be the next Steve Jobs. Execs can earn 10 million per annum, and most businesses won't even touch that. So if your objective is,
you can take leave.
and you can take damn leave. And so always just think about it objectively. Why do you want what you want? And then shape your goals and objectives around that. Don't do it the other way around, like I'm going to be an entrepreneur. But why? Always ask why, and always think out of the box. There's more ways to skin a cat.
Stephen?
I just want to first of all thank my panelists. I always learn so much from mentors.
Likewise.
I think all I want to end with is a saying. I don't know who it comes from, but it's something that I really, really enjoyed using, is that your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying.
Wow. Yeah,
Wow.
That's profound. That's profound. Nkateko, I'm going to give you a question that one of our mentees have asked. Her name is Abongile Bongoza. And she says, with the high rate of unemployment, how can young people be persuaded into following entrepreneurship so they become job creators instead of job seekers?
I think they just need, for me, they need to open their eyes, look around, what is there a need for? In her own community, you just need to look around and say, what is it that I can do to monetize my capability and my skill? You could be in a township somewhere, there's some elderly people that live alone. Can I do your groceries for you and you pay me 50 Rand? Then you do that for a couple of households. You do that for 10 households. That's already 500 Rand you didn't have. So I think it's more about finding a niche, finding a gap, opening your eyes, looking at your skill set, saying, what can I do? And taking away the fear to say, if I walk into a business and I say, can I come and sweep, the front of your store and just clean up a little bit and give me whatever you can? So just to create the opportunity, or say, look, I'd like to learn. Can I come and learn with you? Can I volunteer to get the skill? So, there are many ways of creating an opportunity for yourself, because you could volunteer to a level where the person you're volunteering for is like, oh my God, this person is adding so much value to my business and I'm not even paying them anything. And then an opportunity opens up. Maybe someone's gone on maternity leave or whatever. You just don't know what you don't know, but you need to get out there and try.
That, and just to sum it up, is that we also think that we need to be in the urban areas for everything to happen. We need to be in the economic hub, when again goes back to the fact is that within your community, you can find these gaps and these opportunities.
Another one with this COVID right now, if you're a matriculant, if there's some primary school kids, kids are not going to school, gather up 5 kids, teach them, homeschool them. And then the parents will surely see value in that and say, look, can we compensate you for what you've been able to do? But you've taken the initiative to do something. There's a need, there's a gap. You filled the gap.
And it's not just getting up and existing every day. It's just about living and living, consciously. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that was quite insightful. We're always so grateful to listen to experts and insights. So thanks for your wisdom and your knowledge, and we so appreciate having you on this panel.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Today, we have witnessed the democratization of learning and growth, and I'd like to thank all the mentors for taking time out to share their wealth of wisdom and knowledge. It has been an honor to host this powerful masterclass, and I feel it's necessary for us to continue to empower and learn from each other through meaningful mentee-mentor relationships. And today could not have been possible without the participation of David Wilson, the CEO of the National Mentorship Movement, who joins us now for a vote of thanks.
Thank you. That word democratization is exactly what the National Mentorship Movement is about. And that is about taking what is sometimes seen as an elite discipline, something arcane and different as in mentorship, and make it something which is available to all of us. And some people think that mentorship is something which only the few should get access to. In our view, it's something which everybody should have the opportunity to have. And if you think about it, all of us have been mentored or been mentors at some stage in our lives. We've been parents, or we've had parents, we've had teachers, we played on school teams or whatever. As a result, mentorship is something which we actually are naturally attuned to do. And another thing which I noticed in as a theme that you have is that of power and empowerment. We talk about mentorship as the power of two. We say that not just because it means that there are two people in a relationship and the power of the two in the relationship, but also the research shows that mentorship actually doubles outcomes. So if you have a mentor, you are double as likely to be successful in a business, to grow the business, to remain in business more than 5 years, to employ more people. And that's something which should be available to everybody. So our definition of a mentorship is pretty simple. It's simply a partnership and a relationship of two people with some mutually shared goal that they want to achieve. And most importantly, it's about the reciprocal sharing of knowledge and experience and wisdom between two people, if you like, two consenting adults who are in a relationship because they want to be. So in our case, it's very easy. You simply go to our website, www.mentorshipmovement.co.za. You register as a mentor or mentee. We provide you with onboarding information to prepare you for your journey. We match you to an appropriate mentor or mentee, and we manage your relationship over a period of 12 months through the natural beginnings of building trust and getting to know one another, to getting direction and setting your goals, to getting value from the relationship and achieving those goals, and then wrapping up at the end. Now, why do we know this works? Well, something like 80% of the people who participate in our program strongly recommend it. And in fact, 94% of people who participate in our program say that they either recommend or strongly recommend the program. And what we are seeing is more and more people who are coming away from the program with the confidence, the self-esteem, the networks and the knowledge they need to be successful in life, which had they not been part of the program, they would not have achieved. So we would love to welcome you on our journey and be part of for us to be part of your journey of gaining that knowledge, those networks, and the confidence to be successful. We wish you luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you again to both the National Mentorship Movement and Brand South Africa. I've been your host, Jonathan Boynton Lee. Thank you so much to our mentors and mentees for participating today, and we hope we can all leave here more empowered, inspired, and motivated. To close out today's session is a mentor, disruptor, game changer, and leadership guru, Katie Mohammed, who as the CEO and founder of W Suite has been integral to creating today's event. Katie, we have to finish strong, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. We live in a competitive world, both socially and economically, and I'm sure many of us who are driven and ambitious have thoughts that I need to be the best, or if I'm not the best, I will drag others down to my level. And we must be careful of creating a culture that worships those in positions of power and success. Success is ultimately subjective. Each of our paths to success are different. Even our definitions of success are different, and that's why finding the right mentor is so incredibly valuable. Not all mentors are built the same, and some of the mentees watching may have been drawn to a particular speaker or resonated more with their ideas, delivery, or worldview. And that's fine, because we all are unique. Mentor-mentee relationships shouldn't be viewed as a give-and-take relationship. A mentee doesn't only listen, and a mentor is not a selection of inspirational quotes dressed up as a human. The mentee-mentor relationship is more intricate than that, and it is rooted in the nuanced exchanges between both parties. I often talk about the sacred economy, and this is an economy based on good faith and promise. This is an economy where we provide opportunities and assistance to others, not in the hope that we will get something back from it, but in the hope that mentees will grow from those opportunities and pay it forward when they can. The insights shared today aren't limited to the ears in this room or online. They will be shared further to friends, family, and colleagues. And by sharing words of wisdom, inspiration, empowerment, and hope, we are co-creating a society that is consciously working together to create a better future for not only South Africa, but for the world.